Welcome to another story. If you love stories that resonate with the heart, you've come to the right place. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on our journey. Chapter 1. The Fake Bank Fraud Alert Call. Every morning, 72-year-old Margaret Turner's day began with a steaming cup of Earl Grey tea and a glance at her bank balance online. One drizzly Tuesday, her phone rang, displaying her bank's official hotline. A calm, reassuring female voice claimed to be from bank security and warned that multiple large withdrawals had been detected on her account. Although Margaret had heard about scams on the news, she never imagined she would become a victim. Following each instruction verbatim, she confirmed her account numbers and supplied one-time verification codes. The voice on the other end thanked her for acting quickly, claiming her funds were safe in a secure holding account. It was only hours later, when she tried to log back into her app, that Margaret discovered her balance had been drained to zero. Desperately calling the bank's real customer service line yielded no solace. They insisted the transfers were legitimate and that her money was gone for good. Feeling violated and terrified, Margaret realized that decades of careful saving, her pension, her late husband's life insurance had vanished in an instant. That day, the familiar comfort of her home transformed into a stark reminder of how ruthless and adept scammers could be. Chapter 2. The Friendly Neighborhood Volunteer. Just down a block in Scottsdale, 68-year-old widower Thomas Wilson took pride in his weekend gardening club. One afternoon, a woman named Linda, whom he thought was a neighbor, knocked on his door carrying a plate of homemade chocolate chip cookies. Over tea on his porch, she sympathized with his loneliness and mentioned a new community support grant designed for seniors living alone. The paperwork she presented looked impeccably official, embossed letterhead, an ornate city seal, and references to a legitimate local nonprofit. To qualify, Thomas was asked to pay a small processing fee of £5,000. Eager to help his granddaughter pay for college, he agreed. A few weeks later, Linda's number was disconnected, and her house was empty. The nonprofit's offices had no record of any such program, and the bank told Thomas the wire transfer was unrecoverable. Humiliated and hurt, Thomas confided in his gardening friends. They searched social media profiles and local records, but found no trace of Linda. As the sting of betrayal sank in, he vowed to warn others in his club about the dangers of trusting strangers bearing cookies and false kindness. Chapter 3. The Phony Government Inspector. Retired history teacher Ellen Davis, aged 80, spent her mornings reading and tending to her garden. One day, she found a thick envelope in her mailbox stamped Department of Senior Services. Inside was a form requesting passport copies, social security numbers, and proof of address to confirm your pension index. Never one to ignore official correspondence, Ellen completed and mailed the form immediately. Within days, her bank card was blocked. The statement revealed dozens of unauthorized charges to fraudulent accounts. She called the real department's helpline, only to be told no such correspondence had ever been issued by them. The email address in the letter was a cleverly disguised phishing domain, and Ellen realized too late that she had handed over every piece of identity paperwork a thief could need. Her embarrassment was matched only by her fear. Now, not only were her savings at risk, but her very identity was stolen. She spent sleepless nights worrying about what damage the criminals might do with her name and documents. Chapter 4. The SMS Hijack. Engineer pilot George Miller, 67, maintained an active social life online, texting grandkids overseas. One morning he received an SMS, "Your account has been locked. Verify here," followed by a link. He clicked and promptly entered the one-time code sent to his number. Immediately afterward, he lost access to his email and phone services. Scammers had ported his number to a new SIM, bypassing all two-factor protections. Within hours, his mobile billing account was emptied by recurring subscriptions, and money was siphoned from his bank via SMS-based approvals. George contacted both his telecom provider and bank, but each told him the changes were verified by the account holder. He realized too late that the convenience of SMS security could be turned against him, leaving him isolated and financially ruined. Left scrambling for answers, George felt the modern world closing in on him. Technology he once trusted had become his prison. Chapter 5. The Inheritance Lawyer Scam. In London, 70-year-old Susan Clark's heart leapt when she read an advertisement for unclaimed inheritances await. She phoned the number and was greeted by a suave voice claiming to be Attorney Reynolds. He informed her that a distant Canadian cousin had left her a substantial estate, but first she needed to pay a tax and legal fee of $10,000. Eager for a financial windfall, Susan wired the money. Days turned into weeks with no follow-up. Her calls went unanswered, and the office address proved to be a virtual mail drop. A quick online search showed no record of Attorney Reynolds in any bar association. Susan was devastated to learn that she had fallen for one of the oldest cons in the book. Betrayed and financially depleted, she vacillated between anger and shame. But more determined than ever, Susan later joined the local seniors advocacy group to share her ordeal and help prevent the next victim from losing everything. Chapter 6. The Bogus Utility Worker. A chilly October afternoon found 75-year-old Frank Turner cozily reading by his fireplace when an inspector from 0-800 Util knocked on his door. Dressed in a yellow safety vest and carrying a clipboard, the man said he needed to perform an urgent meter check for compliance. Worried about faulty wiring, Frank invited him in. The imposter quickly fixed a non-existent issue for a cash fee of £300, all the while filming the pseudo-inspection on a hidden camera. Days later, Frank discovered his electricity bills had tripled. An official meter reader confirmed that no inspections were scheduled, and the proved meter was a plastic replica that produced false readings. Frank was left to prove to the utility company that he'd been scammed, an uphill battle made harder by his embarrassment and the crook's meticulous planning. Chapter 7. The Too Good to Be True Investment. In her retirement townhouse, 69-year-old former nurse Patricia Brooks found a glossy brochure touting a high-yield retirement bond. The brochure guaranteed 15% annual returns and displayed professional logos. Wanting to secure her nest egg, Patricia invested £50,000 via an online portal that looked authentic. Weeks later, the portal vanished, the domain expired, and customer service emails bounced. Her attempts to contact the bond issuer led to dead ends. The financial regulator had no record of the entity. Patricia's life savings, painstakingly built over decades, were gone. This sophisticated scheme preyed on her lifelong habit of prudent investment, leaving her to cope with the double blow of financial ruin and shaken faith. Chapter 8. The Tax Relief Consultant. At a church bazaar, retired engineer James O'Connor, 66, met consultant Rachel, who promised to file his taxes for maximum credits for a £500 fee. Trusting her expertise, he handed over the cash and his documents. Weeks later, James received a penalty notice from the tax authority for failing to file. Rachel and her firm had evaporated without a trace. James realized the P.O. Box address he'd been given was a phantom. His hard-earned pension faced hefty fines, and he felt used and foolish. Determined to turn his misfortune into a warning, he invited fellow parishioners to his home to share his story and distribute tax fraud red flags handouts. Chapter 9. The Emergency Medical Fund. Widow Linda Harris, 71, was jolted by a phone call. Your granddaughter has been in a severe accident and needs £8,000 upfront for surgery. Panicked, she rushed to the bank and wired the money to a hospital account. It was only when she called her daughter's house that she learned her granddaughter was safe at home, unaware of any accident. Devastated, Linda visited the local hospital. There was no record of her granddaughter. The surgical deposit account belonged to a series of shell corporations. This cruel con thrived on her deepest fear, losing a loved one. Linda's grief turned into rallying energy. She posted warnings in community centers and helped set up a Verify Before You Wire hotline for seniors. Chapter 10. Strength and Unity. After their individual losses, these 9 seniors, Margaret, Thomas, Ellen, George, Susan, Frank, Patricia, James, and Linda, found one another online and formed the Golden Guardians Network. They share a verified contact list for banks, utilities, and government agencies, a letter templates for disputing fraudulent charges, a monthly video calls to educate new members about emerging scams. As the community grew, they launched a petition to their local MP, resulting in increased funding for senior fraud prevention programs. Their motto, "Alone we are targets, together we are guardians." Thank you for watching to the end. If this story touched you, support the video with a like and subscribe to the channel. There are many more exciting stories to come that will stay with us for a long time. See you soon.